Gentlemen, today we're going to be discussing selling luxury items. Now, this is not like selling a toaster at Walmart. It's not like selling a lawnmower at Sears. This is going to be selling high-end watches, jewelry, Lexus cars, BMWs, things like that. Now, there are 7 steps to the selling process, and these have been documented by people like Joe Girard and Zig Ziglar, Shane Decker, guys that are really top-end level sellers. The 7 steps are: approach the customer, exchange information, build value, create desire, a trial close, and follow up. Now, you do these things and you don't even know them, but they are listed here, and I'll list them in the description down below. If you skip any step in this process, you're going to lose the trust that you have to have in order to sell high-end products. Now, this is going to be the first video in a 6-part series. What we're going to do is take each one of these subjects apart, and today this video is about how to approach the customer. So let's get going. So now let's start with how to approach the customer. Well, before we begin, let's think about it in 3 separate steps or 3 movements that you go through. There's 3 areas of the approach. Number 1, overcoming customer resistance. Number 2, the types of approach. You have a merchandise approach and a friendship approach. And number 3, the I'm just looking. And we'll tackle that in very much detail toward the end of this video. So now let's move on. Oh, before I forget, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button or give me a thumbs up, and I sure would appreciate it. So back to selling luxury items. Number 1, the approach and overcoming resistance. Now, overcoming resistance. Let's think about this thing for just a second. A customer walks into your business, and I'm a brick and mortar business. I own a small jewelry store. So if you guys who do internet sales or large, huge corporations, this might not be for you. But for the small, independent business person, you can glean a lot from this sales strategy. So the customer walks into your business. The first thing you have to do is overcome their desire to leave, basically. They don't want to be there. They feel uncomfortable. They feel like you are going to pull the wool over their eyes and sell them something they can't afford, don't want, or don't need. So the first thing you have to do is create an atmosphere of welcoming that customer. You have to overcome their resistance. A good way of overcoming resistance is to grab one of your other sales associates and take them somewhere off the sales floor, and you guys role play and figure out how you can smoothly transition through these steps. You can ask him or her, does that sound good? Does this sound good? How do you overcome this objection, or how do you deal with this objection? And I'll give you tips and tricks in this video of how to deal with somebody who says, I'm just looking, or I'm just killing time while my wife is next door buying makeup or beauty aids. I would recommend you role playing with fellow associates to tag team each other, and also to learn how you can get in and out of that sale quickly, easily, and efficiently, but also so that sales associate can hear you giving your sales presentation and maybe can help you in and out as they see fit. The approach. How do you reduce the resistance of that customer? The customer walks in, and you have to be somewhat of a detective. I need you to look at the way they're dressed, down to their shoes, down to or up to their hair. I need you to take into consideration the entire person, because what you're going to do is use clues on the way they're dressed or the way they act to help build that relationship very quickly and get into the selling process. Remember, I believe that a person did not walk into your store and are just looking. You look on the internet. You look on Craigslist or eBay or whatever the case may be. You don't look in a brick and mortar store. When you walk through the door of a store, you're there to buy. Now, you can be either put off by a salesperson and not buy anything, or you can be helped and put on by that salesperson and in turn buy that product. So how do you approach this person? Remember, you have to look at the way they're dressed, the way they act, and all that kinds of stuff. But the first thing you need to do is smile. And I would recommend you be visible on the sales floor at all times. Like I say, I own a jewelry store, so we are constantly cleaning something, standing on the sales floor. It is a lot easier for a customer to approach you if you look busy, because you look like you want to be there. Now, I don't mean that you're so occupied you can't say hello, but I mean that you're standing there ready to greet them as soon as they come to the door. So they open the door, they walk in, and you say what? You better say good morning, good afternoon, or hello at the very least. The second thing you need to say is, my name is blank. What is your name? If you don't know the customer, get their name as soon as possible. The reason for this, the sweetest word to any person in the world is their name. When you get their name, you repeat it 3 times while you're talking to that person. Good morning, Joe. Nice to meet you. Well, Joe, what can I help you with? So, Joe, you want to see this watch or that watch. Repeat it 3 times to yourself. Write it down if you have to, but you need to use his or her name throughout the rest of the selling process. All 7 steps need to include that customer's name. Why did I tell you to look at what they're wearing and how they're dressed? Here we go. So you need to pick out clues, and you can notice them very quick. Is this a father? Is it a mother? Does she have children or he has children with them? Grandmother. Were they running? Do they have on running clothing? Have they been to the gym? Do they have weightlifting clothing on? These clues can introduce you into a conversation and not even know it. Good morning. Nice to meet you, June or Joe, whatever. How was your run this morning? What route do you normally take? Have you ever tried running in this park or that park? So, Joe, I see you're a weightlifter. Do you go to this gym or that gym? Judging by your suit and your briefcase, you look like you're a business person. What type of work do you do? Are you a financial advisor? Are you a banker? Are you an executive? Tell me about what you do. 2 things. This will lower their guard because people love to talk about themselves. I know we're not supposed to admit it, but we do. It'll lower their guard, plus it'll give you a way to sell them a product that they need, not just because they want it. What I mean by that, if a man comes in your store and he's dressed in an Armani suit and carrying a briefcase, let's say you sell trucks. He's not looking for an F-250 with mud tires on it. This guy's going to be looking for more of a sporty car or a sedan, or if he does want a truck, it's not going to be for mud bogging on the weekends. It's going to be for moving his family from place to place throughout the week. Those types of clues go a long way into a sales presentation. Now, back on approaching the customer, this is bonus. You don't have to pay for this. This is totally free. If a man has children with him, if a woman has children with them, if a grandmother or grandfather has children with them, you spend more time with that child. Please listen to me. The quickest way to a parent's heart, and in turn their pocketbook, is through their children. The quickest way to a grandparent's heart is through their children. Here at the store, we offer every child a sucker, a cookie, maybe a drink, whatever we can. Number 1, it occupies the child. Number 2, you show that you are actually caring about that customer's children. And that goes a long way to building that trust with these luxury item sales. The approach, again, role play with a fellow associate. Remember the way the customers are dressed. Greet them quickly, use their name often, and try to fit their need to the product you sell. That will help building that trust, building that rapport, and the overall transaction will go a lot more smoothly. So you've approached the customer. Next is the types of approach you will use with your merchandise. Okay. Number 1, there's the merchandise approach. Number 2, there is the friendship approach. Now, I believe that these two are broken down because you approach a female different than you approach a male. What do I mean by that? If a man comes into your store, no matter what you sell, the average transaction of a male takes less than 10 minutes, no matter what he's buying. He could be buying a $150,000 Lamborghini, and it takes him less than 10 minutes. He could be buying that toaster at Walmart. It takes him less than 10 minutes. A man buys on speed. He knows what he wants. He knows where it is. He walks in and he buys it. Now, conversely, a lady, a female, takes a little bit longer. Their average sales time is closer to 30 minutes. They like to look at everything, they like to touch it, and they like to hear stories about it. So let's break these down. The merchandise approach. Merchandise approach is one of the two ways you can approach a customer, and I think it's used specifically for men. So the merchandise approach, how does that work? Number one, a man comes in your store and you go through the greeting process. Put something in his hand quickly. If you sell watches, rings, lawnmowers, cars, put him in a car as fast as you can. Men like to see it. They like to hear it. Tell him about the technology of it. When a guy comes into our store and we put a watch on his arm, we talk about the solar power, the connectivity of it, the band, the stainless steel, the titanium. We talk about the technical aspects of that watch. Okay? So the merchandise approach, put something in his hand quickly. You could say something to a man like, "We just got this in," or "I bought this with you in mind," if you happen to know this customer. Or "Sally needs this because she bought the bracelet last year." And also, this is a bonus. If you have a product that you can add to over time, men love that. They don't have to think about the next occasion's purchase. So let's say it's a diamond pendant. If you sell him the first one, remind him every so often you can always add diamonds to it. That'll give him a way out the next occasion in case he forgets. So remember, put an article, something in this man's hands, or sit him in that car, or put him on that lawnmower just as quickly as you possibly can. And that's the merchandise approach. So let's talk about the friendship approach. Now, I use this as a label for how I approach ladies. Now remember, I work in a jewelry store. Yours is going to have to be tailored to you. Now, men are fast. They want to hear technical information, how it will benefit them, and the price, and they'll pay you and leave. They're done. With ladies, slow down. It takes a little longer. The friendship approach when it comes to ladies. Ladies like to hear stories behind whatever you're selling. Ladies like to hear about how the leather was made in that car seat, to know about the functions of all of the buttons on that dashboard. They like to know what the metal's made out of, who owned it before they did, or how it will benefit her and her family. Does it ride good? That type of thing. So where man is more technical, ladies are story based, and they like to hear the story, and they like to feel it and touch it and talk about basically the shininess of it. So you got men that are quick, ladies that are more slow when it comes to the sales approach, but you have to learn how to approach them. And it goes back to that role playing. If you can role play with a sales associate and learn those pitfalls and how not to get into them, then you can sell to either gender. Another trick that you can use when selling things to ladies is you can ask her about what she's already got. What I mean by that is when she drives up at the dealership and you see her driving a car, ask her what prompted her to buy that car. What does she like about it? What does she dislike about it? That will build a roadmap for you to sell her the next car. You'll know what she's already looking for. You'll know what she's not looking for. When they come into a jewelry store or a high-end watch store, you can ask them, what is the occasion that you're buying this piece of jewelry marking? Ladies buy more jewelry for themselves because of promotions at work as a way to mark that moment in time than you can imagine. So if you get them in a jewelry store and you're asking them about the bracelet they already wear, or the ring they already wear, or the pendant that they're wearing, they may tell you something like, I got promoted to vice president over human resources and I bought this 1-carat pendant. Well, she may be getting promoted to something else very soon, so you can suggest a diamond bracelet that matches it. See how that all kind of works in together? In a nutshell, you've got the merchandise approach and the friendship approach. With the friendship approach, it's geared more toward the ladies. Let them lead the sale. Okay? Listen more than you talk. Ask questions where she can't just say yes or no. With men, you lead the sale. You do want to find out what he's looking for. You do want to direct him in the right direction, but he has to be more or less pushed into it. A lady wants it to be her idea. Men want it to be your idea. For one reason, so they can blame you if it's wrong, but don't worry about that. So lead men and let ladies lead you. So let's say you go through your greeting and they say, well, I'm just killing time while my wife is next door getting her nails done, or she's next door looking at a piece of clothing or whatever. So I'm just killing time. You could say, fantastic. A jewelry store, a car dealership, a whatever is a great place to kill time. Let me show you what we have. And take the customer around. You can say things like, this is the Lexus, this is a BMW, this is that. They may already know what your products are, but at least you're spending time with that customer. And the whole time you're showing them your line of merchandise, you're conveying to that customer your product knowledge. So you have to know what you're talking about. If a man asks you what kind of tires are on that BMW, you better know. Because if you don't know, you just convinced him you don't know your product. They come in, greet them. They say, I'm just looking. You know how to handle that. They say, I'm just killing time. You know how to handle that. Now, this is a bonus, which I've given you quite a few of. So anyway, let's say that the customer comes in and you greet them and you exchange names and they don't give you their name. Okay, no big deal. So let's say they say, I'm just looking, or I'm just killing time, or whatever the case may be. But let's say you and that customer don't hit it off. Nothing wrong with that. Some people you just can't get along with. Some people can't get along with you. That's just the way life is. Now, don't get upset. This is where the role playing that we talked about at the beginning of this video comes into play. So let's say Janet is your sales associate and she's been role playing with you on and off during work hours for the last several weeks. You know her tactics and she knows yours. And hopefully yours are not the same. She's a little different than you are. So what you can do is you can hand that customer off to her. You can develop some type of signal. You can develop some way of knowing when you need help. So the customer comes in, you don't get along with them. You can say, Janet knows more than I do about X. Let me grab her. Janet comes over. You can introduce the customer to Janet and hand that customer off to her. And she may have a better probability of closing that sale than you did because of the rapport between you and that customer. So guys, there you have it. The 3 parts of the approach in the 7-step selling method. Remember, overcoming customer resistance. The types of approach, you've got your merchandise and your friendship approach. And then dealing with the objections like I'm just looking. In other words, don't bother me. If you have a comment, leave it down below. And I'd also like to know how you go about approaching your customers in your store. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and I sure would appreciate it. And soon we'll be back with the 2nd step in this 7-step selling process. See you then.